John, Melissa, hey, congratulations for they, them, us.
So
um,
tricky.
it's a wonderful movie that you actually created. It's very funny.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, we hope so. It's our first time seeing it with an audience tonight, so the proof is in the pudding if they laugh.
I know, not to mention that it's actually going to be with a live audience rather than just an online screener. So how does it feel that it's being showcased at the Dances with Films this year?
It's great. I mean, we really wanted to hold out for a non-virtual premiere because it's so hard with a comedy to have people watch it online in their living rooms. We really wanted an audience to be able to feel it together and enjoy it together.
That is terrific. Well, let's start off with the easy question. Melissa, where did the original idea actually came from? Well, I guess Melissa and John.
Well, I would say it's kind of inspired by life events that we experienced and some topics that we were addressing in our own lives, and that was sort of the stepping off point for the narrative.
Yeah. I mean, there's both, like, the story events were definitely inspired by some autobiographical stuff, but the idea for the movie for me was really about making a movie that's very similar to a lot of the Hollywood movies I love, like Billy Wilder movies and Preston Sturges movies that change tone on a dime. I really wanted to try something that was funny, but also had elements of tragedy in it, because I think that's what parenthood is like. You're always like, you don't know whether to laugh or cry. So I wanted to make a movie that kind of skirted that line. I'm always interested in filmmakers that try to do both at the same time without alienating the audience.
I'm assuming the autobiographical part, or that you're talking about, is the parenthood part, not the not like all the S&M jokes that's actually sprinkled throughout.
We did research for those, and we definitely wanted authenticity. We worked very closely with some consultants in that world in Columbus because we wanted authenticity. We wanted to make an authentic Midwestern story. I'm from New York City, and I've made romantic comedies that are set in New York City, and most romantic comedies are either set in New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco. And we wanted to make a romantic comedy that was set in the Midwest and showed what the rest of the country is like. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, there are S&M groups in Columbus, Ohio. We wanted to do it right.
Mm-hmm. And have a kind of a narrative of an openness about sexuality and discussing it and having it exist within a regular lived experience. And we were kind of trying to put it to a forefront versus have it like an underground or something that just sort of happens, not center stage. So that was kind of important to bring this into light a little bit.
Yeah.
So how exactly this research process actually go? Besides consultants, you folks actually tried it and
oh yeah. Yeah. We went to some conventions and some many different events and met a lot of people and became friends with a lot of people in these scenes, and we were very involved and had lots of conversations about the thing that we find most interesting in that scene is that there's a lot of consent language that they have to navigate, and that was the most interesting thing that we wanted to kind of push, that it's a consensual exchange.
Yeah. And that the community, the people that we spoke to in that community, they really don't like 50 Shades of Grey, in terms of the way that world is portrayed, because it's very joyless. It's so serious. And it's always kind of made fun of too, or, either you get the joyless 50 Shades of Grey, or you get the, businessman with a dominatrix. And we wanted to avoid both of those cliches and show these are just real people doing things that, consenting adults can do. Like, it's
Yeah.
not, it's not supposed to be weird or, anything to shy away from. And it's funny. And they tell us, like, it's really funny what happened, a lot of stuff that happens. We wanted to capture that. So
Yeah.
they told us we actually have made the first like true S&M movie that's really like that captures the world, which is great.
Yeah.
Your costume designer must have had a nice field day trying to gather all the materials for the film then.
Yeah, and the props,
yeah.
the props design too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But to get back to the parenthood stuff too, like, we both have kids and we had to blend our family. And that is, I haven't seen too many stories about that in movies, the difficulties of navigating that reconstruction of a family dynamic. You don't get to see that often. And usually it's portrayed as like tragedy, like the tragedy of divorce and what happens to the kids. And, it's not easy, but it's doable. And you have to be able to be honest, but also show like the joy in that as well, forming a new family.
Was the number of kids, the 4 kids in the film, with the exact number of kids that you guys had to merge your families to?
Yeah, they're kind of loosely based on our kids. Like, some of the events are loosely based, but we put a lot of personalities together and changed things a lot. I mean, it's the structure of the film is autobiographical, but we've changed a lot of the details and fictionalized a lot of things.
How I'm on the West Coast, so there's a little bit different approach towards marijuana because we're much more open. So how is it for like a Midwestern trying to incorporate this type of theme into a story for a Midwestern story?
Well, the character says that the laws are in a constant state of flux and it's very confusing. And it's true. Like, nobody knows what's legal or what's not. Like, they won't arrest you if you're carrying a small amount, but it is absolutely not legal to send it across state lines. And also the main character is a professor and he's already gotten himself in some trouble. So he's nervous about his son. Obviously he's worried about his son's drug use, but also like if they get caught, getting a box of. So this actually happened. My son ordered marijuana from the mail from Oregon. And we were just like, this is interstate commerce. Like, this is not legal. Like, you're going to get yourself in trouble, And what do you do? Like, as a parent, like when that happens, like, there's no book that's going to tell you how to navigate that one,
Yeah. And they're so independent also. I mean, with the internet, there's, it's just, they're out there, and you just have to trust that they're going to figure out and make the right decision, because you can't control them when they're teenagers. And when we came together, they were all teenagers. And so we had a lot of this conflict kind of thing happening a bit in the merger.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. There's always, when you have 4 like this, there's always one that is, you're just kind of navigating from crisis to crisis, because one is always having some kind of difficulty. So there's no resting point. There's no like deep breath. We did it.
Yeah.
And that's what the ending is sort of supposed to represent, is like, things are going to be okay, but it's not going to be drama free. Like, there's no happy endings. It's just like life goes on after that.
Yeah. And we found it was important to not end with a marriage or not end with them all like watching the same movie, but just existing in the same space, doing their own thing, but still being like together. And that's how we really have seen the kids. They exist in the same space, but they don't have to all watch a movie at the same time or agree on anything. And that's perfectly fine. It's normal. And yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Tell us the truth. When you discovered the marijuana in real life, what did you do with it?
Okay. So the part of the film where he confronts, like, my son is like quite a bit larger than me. So when I tried to take it, like, he really did stand in front of me and say, like, I want my marijuana back. And then the fiction running out the door, that's fictional. But I actually hid it in a closet, and then I gave it to a couple of friends who I knew would appreciate it. Because I knew that when they smoked it, they would think of our son and enjoy that free marijuana that they did not have to pay for. So
See, that's real parenting 101 right there.
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's not
On the
101.
fly.
That's like parenting like 300. It's like advanced parenting. It's like senior seminar in parenting that you don't get. Parenting 101 is like, that's, you don't,
No
you know,
can.
no candy. Yeah. No, yeah. Don't watch, Cross of the Green.
Look both ways.
Look both ways. This is like a junior level, senior level seminar parenting. That's crazy.
That is great. That is terrific. Now, of course, when people watch it, because it, I like the openness of the family, and I mean the fact that you have one of the characters as a non-binary person. Could you talk about that and how you came to that decision?
Yeah, I mean that's also based on real experiences, and a lot of the narrative of that character is totally true. And we found it was really important to make sure that we also had a non-binary actor to play the character, and that the kid who that character was based on, they had extensive conversation with the actor so that they could really make sure that there was no exaggeration, that it's really rooted in exact experiences. And it was really important to us to not play it as a joke, or like, we just really wanted to talk about how hard it is to try to exist in the world that doesn't understand your identification. And so I felt like it went really well, and it was a really good experience for the actor and for the child that it was based on. And I think it weaves into really well kind of how we're trying to deal with sexuality in a more open way, and that
yeah, and having Lexi, the actor who plays that character in the film, was really helpful, because not only is it a great performance, but I think a movie like this, if you're not careful, can just go very broad. There's some very broad scenes in the movie, and it needs to be grounded. Every scene needs to be real. And I talked about that, the cinematographer, the costume designer, the composer, like, don't go too broad. When you got like a character that's wearing a mask at a convention, like, things could just, run off the rails really easily. And the comedy has to be grounded in reality. Otherwise the movie is not going to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, so, I mean, it is true. There is just a lot of serious themes and subjects throughout this entire movie. Was it hard to balance, the comedy throughout, or comedy came naturally for you two?
Well, again, like, I always, even in the scenes that were very serious, when we wrote them, I always wanted there to be something humorous that people could, so the movie didn't go too dark. Like when Charlie and his son are in the hospital room, and Charlie says to him, "Do you remember anything?" And the son says, "They killed John's dog." And like, here's this serious scene, and I want people to be able to like have a little bit of relief too there, and it's like, just try to find like one humorous thing in the serious scenes. And then the comedic scenes, I think you could play those scenes as tragedy, a lot of them. You know what I mean? Like, that's like an old saw about comedy, but I think it's true, like, just a different version of this, like, something could happen and those scenes would be tragic. So again, if it's grounded, hopefully you can see both in it. And then also, like, I think you have to foreshadow the serious parts of the third act earlier in the movie so that they don't catch people by surprise. So that something's going to go wrong with Danny, and it's hopefully threaded in throughout, so that by the end of the movie, you're not like, where'd this come from? Hopefully it was all there. If you look a little more carefully, or you watch it and the second time, see that like we've laid those seeds throughout.
Now, is this script writing 101?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's funny because I teach script writing too, and I talk to my students about this all the time, and I'm like, you can change tone if you want, but your audience can hate you, because like, it's like a handshake that you make with your audience in the first 5 minutes. Like, what kind of movie am I watching? And if you're going to try to pull the rug out from under them, you better do it really well and foreshadow it, because they love to do that too. They're like, I don't want to stick to one genre. I want it to be a, horror, comedy / I don't know, Western, and you see this all the time with students. They're just like, they don't want to stick to one genre. So it's like, well, okay, but like, you got to ground them.
Excellent. I love Joey and Amy in this film. I love a lot of the projects they actually do, both on television and indie projects. Tell us in your words why they are perfect for the roles.
Okay. It's interesting. So Joey, I feel like, was born to play this character.
He's so good.
I mean, he just gets it. Like, it's one thing on the page, and I think it can be kind of one-dimensional on the page. And Joey knew how to not only just find the comedy, but also make it very real. Like, even when he's doing these kind of funny facial expressions, like, it's always real and it's always grounded. And Amy actually came onto the project first. And Amy was not, I think, originally the idea for the character that we had in our minds. She was so wonderful in the audition, and she just got the movie so well. And she like dug in and did her research, and she learned how to use the whip. Like, she's actually whipping in that scene.
She had to have a Zoom lesson that we were, and they had met many times about it. So she really got really good at it.
Yeah.
She has like a spark, and that's what that character needed, like this spunky spark. And she just really kind of carried that throughout the film. Great.
Yeah, and they're friends too, so they trust each other. They know each other from New York. So like, when they had to do the scene where Amy slaps him, like, they rehearsed it a little bit, but like Amy said, Joey said, slap me, it's okay, you can do that. And I think if they didn't have that comfort level, that scene would not have been half as funny and as real, because Amy just like, she said, this take, watch out, I'm gonna whack you, and like, and he plays it very, he exaggerates it, but she really did hit him. So I think the fact that they have this, I don't think they've ever been in a movie together, but they've known each other in the New York film and theater worlds for like 20 years. So
yeah, I could totally see Joey because he's a very funny person. Amy, this was a lot different from what I actually seen her in previously.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I love about her. Like, she's out here in LA now, for the screening tonight. And the roles she told me she's up for, they're completely different from one another. I don't think she ever tries to play one type. And she doesn't like, like, she could be easily known as the mom or the, I don't know, the bad guy or whatever it is. And she just goes she's very much a chameleon. She's like a real actor's actor. And she's not afraid of independent films at all. Like, she'll do any, she'll get right in there. Fearless.
Great. And remark about the teams that you actually used in the film.
Well, they were great.
Yeah, they were great. So we had one casting director in New York who cast Joey and Amy, and then Lexi, who played Maddie, the trans actor. And then we had a casting director in Cincinnati, because the movie was filmed in Columbus. And Lynn Myers, the Cincinnati casting director, was responsible for finding everybody else. The most important thing was that everyone was actually over 18 years old, because we had a lot of night shoots, and child labor laws would have meant that if they were under 18, we wouldn't have been able to shoot the film, because we wouldn't have been able to finish it on time. So Jack, who plays Danny, was someone who just graduated from University of Cincinnati acting school. And I have a former colleague who teaches there, and he told me about Jack, and we saw him, and he was just perfect for the part. And then Shanna is from Cleveland, and Sarah is from Louisville. When you cast the West, you cast a pretty wide net, like from Chicago, maybe as far as Atlanta. So, and it's, again, like, it's a chance for actors who are not from the coast to get a chance to do well. And, Todd Haynes shoots a lot of his movies in Cincinnati now. He loves Cincinnati. And so Lynn knows, has a deep well of actors that she can call on who have had experience in big movies.
And the dynamics between them was just amazing.
Yeah.
Like, the contrast that they created between each personality and the way it was subtly delivered, just so great. Every time I see those scenes where all the kids are together and they all have their different attitudes, it's just so spot on and perfect, dynamic.
Yeah, they found that they didn't have any rehearsal because we didn't have much time to rehearse. And plus we were shooting during COVID. So everything was triply hard, you know, and the fact that they give performances like that when they were, you know, masked all the time and being COVID tested every other day and you know, it brought an extra layer of stress to the project, and the freedom with which kids played the parts was just amazing. You know, they could have been scared to be on that set and be around because it was pre-vaccines. It was a year ago, and that went away right away. They felt protected and safe.
Now remind me, why Columbus again? Is that where you're based?
Yeah, so I'm from New York City. Melissa grew up in Columbus, and then I moved about 10 years ago to teach at Kenyon College in the film program. Kenyon's about an hour from Columbus, so we live in Columbus. Yeah, and it's a city that like has really never been represented on film before. Like Ohio has a really big tax credit, but most of the movies go to either Cincinnati or Cleveland, even though Columbus has the biggest population and the most money. So we really wanted to use the city as a backdrop, and I think it's a city that is very cinematic and has a lot to show. You know, and it's nice to not see the Empire State Building and all these New York locations, you know, in a romantic comedy for a change.
Great. Well, one more thing that I'm actually curious before I let you two go is the film references that you actually mentioned in the film class. I never heard of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, the films?
The Preston Sturges?
Yeah.
Oh, you should watch them. It's a treat. You're in for such a treat. Because, you know, like, it's the craziest thing. Like Preston Sturges, you know, I teach him in my film comedy class, and he made like 5 movies in the early 40s that were so successful. Like he was actually the highest paid person in America in like 1942. Like, and people just don't know him, you know, and because he just burned bright really fast. And then his career kind of, took a turn for the worse. But you should watch like Lady Eve and The Palm Beach Story, Miracle of Morgan's Creek. I mean, there are just these outrageous fun comedies that are just and you'll see like the Coen brothers love Preston Sturges. So you'll be like, oh, these feel like a Coen brothers movie. And what you realize is they actually stole so much from him because they love him so much. Like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is based on Sullivan's Travels, which is a Preston Sturges movie. And they love him so much. They just took things wholesale from him.
Wow.
Wow. You are a film teacher.
No extra charge.
That's terrific. I think I will definitely check those films out. But I guess the twist is you mentioned John Wick.
Yeah.
So how did you go from that to John Wick into a film?
That was actually Abby Van Andel who played that character's idea. She thought it would be really funny if the divorced persons group, and it was actually supposed to be divorced persons, but we just couldn't get enough extras because of COVID, because every extra had to be tested twice before they could even come on set. So, but it was supposed to be both men and women in the divorced parents group. And she just thought it would be really funny if they watched John Wick 3 Parabellum in the divorced persons group. And we just went with that.
That is great. Well, John, Melissa, hey, congratulations for They, Them, Us.
Hard to say.
Which is showcasing at Dances with Films, and I really appreciate you two sharing this conversation with us. It is a great movie. It's very funny and delightful, and like you said, it's grounded, and hopefully a lot of people will see this.
I hope so. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next time.
Take care.